Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Belle again. So today, we're going to talk about your questions about Trump, Iran, and so on. Okay, so after this was recorded, news broke of Iran's response. So we're inserting a little breaking news and analysis into this before we get to your questions. After the U.S. entry into the situation, it was clear that Iran would respond. Iran opted for the first phase of its response to be conventional. They launched short and medium-range ballistic missiles at an American airbase in Qatar. That's the hub of a lot of operations in the region. Most of them were intercepted. This is being widely cast as a performative action. It's important to remember that historically, Iran engages in responses over an extended window. Trump is saying everything is over. But I feel like he's saying that because he needs it to be the case politically. We'll know whether or not U.S. intelligence believes it's over by whether or not the travel advisories are lifted. If this is the totality of the Iranian response, it's safe to assume the U.S. strikes did not significantly degrade Iranian capabilities. Now, we'll answer a couple of your questions about today's events before moving on to those from before. First question, quote, why are people doubting reports that no U.S. personnel were injured in Iran strikes? Because the last time this happened, during his first term, Trump struck Iran and Iran retaliated. Trump said nobody was hurt and that Iran was weak. But dozens of U.S. service members were being screened and treated for TBIs, and 11 had to be medically evacuated out of the area to Europe and Kuwait. The administration didn't admit the wounded even existed for more than a week. That's why informed commentators are skeptical of his claims. Next question. The media and Trump are saying it's over, but every indie analyst is saying it's not. Is it just for clicks? The media is for the most part parroting Trump. People who understand Iranian doctrine know it's incredibly unlikely this is the end, unless the U.S. strikes were an abject failure. Take last time as an example. They immediately responded with missiles just like this. Then they launched a years-long secret campaign targeted at U.S. officials. Iran doesn't do one-and-dones historically. The media just spent a day celebrating a head-fake narrative from the administration, but they seem unwilling to acknowledge that Iran has historically done the same thing. Retaliation tends to come in phases. Okay, we'll now return you to your previously scheduled Q&A. Normally, this is the type of content that would be on the second channel, which is called the Roads with Belle. But this seems like it should be here, given the frequency some of the questions came in. Okay, so starting off with the big question, where are the spicy rocks? Quote, you've said we can't be sure how effective the strikes were, or that they moved the uranium. Please tell me what experience you have to make such a prediction. The sites were destroyed. Trump just said again it was a complete success. The Israeli military, the IAEA, and so on have all said the sites were not destroyed. Certainly not obliterated, to use Trump's term. The Pentagon is even using the term damaged now. The U.S. has also now admitted they don't actually know where the uranium is. If you want to avoid being taken in the future, remember that politicians lie. Trump isn't a source. Next one. And I promise I didn't pick all snarky questions. You keep acting like it matters that Iran still has its uranium, or if somebody steals it during a collapse of government. Who gives a blank? It's not weapons grade, and even though we might have missed the uranium, we got their centrifuges. Please explain why I should care. There's a lot in this one. First, yes, weapons grade is 90%. And Iran's is only 60%. 90% is for high efficiency. Anything over 20% is considered weapons usable. The more enriched it is, the more efficient it is. Efficiency in nukes is pretty relative. Want to know a device that didn't use weapons-grade uranium? Little Boy. The uranium in that was enriched to various levels. None of it made it to weapons grade, but some was really close. Some was only enriched to 50%. The less efficient the material, the more you need. The uranium could also be used to make radiological dispersal devices, or dirty devices. The unknown location of that quantity of uranium is quite literally the largest security threat in the world right now. Hopefully, Iran has it well secured. Next question. Do you think Trump could use this to cancel the elections? There is no mechanism for Trump to cancel the election. The U.S. has never had a canceled or postponed election. Not during the Civil War, Spanish flu, World War II, or COVID. Congress sets the election date. Here's another. You saying that the country might be more at risk is fear-mongering, especially mentioning civilians. Iran isn't going to hit us. The U.S. is evacuating civilians from the region. State has issued travel advisories. The Trump administration advised governors about elevated risks, and other countries are moving their troops and assets away from ours. Those are weird steps to take if they believe there isn't an elevated risk now. Maybe your nationalism is obscuring your thought. Next up. I'll just go ahead and admit it. I'm Gen Z, and I've never been through this. We're kind of panicking. Is there a risk of a draft? We are a long way from that being a worry. Why don't you think they'll respond with the uranium? That was noticeably missing from your list of options on how they could respond. Because I don't think they're insane. They know what the response would be. Here's a motivation question that is normally something I don't get into. But quote, why would he do this? There's no upside for us. Honestly, I think he didn't like being called a chicken. I think that was the deciding factor. There was no way they didn't know this could go bad. Last one. In your comments, somebody said the uranium was only the size of a volleyball. Is that right? It's close enough to right. It depends on the exact form, which is information I don't have. But 900 pounds of 60% is probably just a wee bit bigger than a volleyball. And it was probably in several canisters, so each one is even smaller. I think in the form that takes up the most space, it would fit into canisters that are about 36 inches in length. This doesn't take up a lot of space. It could have easily been moved in backpacks or briefcases. Okay, so I'm sure we'll have another update soon. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.